10 years ago in 2014, game journalists attempted to salvage the reputation of a dying video game studio by granting them a Game of the Year award. That's right. In 2014, Dragon Age Inquisition won Game of the Year 2014 from the Game Awards. And I just want you to think about back to what happened to BioWare immediately before and after that. You had the Mass Effect trilogy, you had the downfall of the third game, right? With the ending that was very controversial. Then you had Dragon Age Inquisition, which was not very popular, which everyone rejected, which everyone had a problem with, right? Dragon Age Inquisition was not well received at all. But game journalists tried to give it a Game of the Year award anyway. And immediately after the year was over, the game was forgotten, right? And in the following years, we got like Mass Effect Andromeda, which bombed, and then we got Anthem, which killed the entire company, right? At this point in time, BioWare is nowhere to be seen. Nobody cares about them. Nobody remembers them. Nobody thinks that they're going to make some big revival, that they're going to come back. No, like they are completely 100% dead. And this is important because it really just goes to show you just how irrelevant the Game Awards actually is. Because Dragon Age Inquisition, much like The Last of Us Part 2 and Baldur's Gate 3, only won the award in order to push political agendas onto people, right? These games were pushed in order to justify, like, in order to promote woke culture in the industry, right? It had nothing to do with how good they were as games or like any technical innovations or how popular they were or how much they sold. Dragon Age Inquisition, the most numbers I can see for this thing is that it sold 6 million units, right? Which sounds impressive until you realize that um, like what it was going up against, right? Like when you look at what's been happening, it becomes more and more obvious that the Game Awards have essentially become the Oscars, where they promote absolute nonsense games that nobody cares about, nobody plays, nobody remembers, in order to push a political agenda, in order to push the message, right? And for some reason, a lot of people are going along with it for Baldur's Gate 3. Dragon Age Inquisition was very, very controversial, but people are accepting Baldur's Gate 3. I imagine because people hate Nintendo more than they hate woke culture, but like the result is going to be the same, regardless of what like the gaming audience tries to promote, right? Zelda will be remembered and popular. Mario will be remembered and popular, but Baldur's Gate 3 will be pretty quickly forgotten, much like Dragon Age Inquisition, right? It's gonna go down the same path. And this is the reality of woke media in general, is just how, unless it annoys like non-woke audiences, how nobody is really all that enthusiastic about it, right? Nobody really wants this stuff. Even people who like push for it, because they're not interested in actually, enjoying a story or seeing their ideas presented in like a creative format. No, they're interested in pushing their ideas onto people, right? Who are not receptive to them, right? They are interested in political propaganda, right? And by pushing these kind of games as like the best in the industry, they're trying to give them some kind of credibility. They're trying to establish some kind of legacy. They're trying to establish some credibility. But when you get right down to it, when you get down to what's actually happening, like more and more gamers like myself are saying that the Game Awards has no justification in promoting itself as like the end all be all like Game Awards show. Like the Game Awards are a joke. Always have been. I've always been speaking out about this, but as of 2033, never even watching them again. Like they are completely dead to me. And I hope that more people start pushing back against the show going forward. I'm sure the show is already in its death throes. It did kind of feel this year that there was no real enthusiasm for it. Like all I ever saw was people complaining about how terrible it was, and I do think that people are going to start like tuning out, much like they did with the Oscars. I know I am. And if anything I've done in the past decade, moving on from PlayStation, moving on from third-party games, like if anything I've done is any indication, like I'm 10 years ahead of everyone else, right? Like whether it happens in 10 years or 50, like the Game Awards is not going to be seen as this major video game critic outlet, right? It's not going to be seen as like an event where we celebrate new and upcoming video games. It's always going to be mired in controversy. It's always going to be known for its goofy moments. It's always going to be known for its bad picks, right? It is the Oscars, right? Like that's basically what it amounts to, is that this is a show that's not worth talking about. And all you have to do to understand that is simply go back and look at the winners. Whether it's like Dragon Age Inquisition or Overwatch or The Last of Us Part 2 or Baldur's Gate 3, none of these games are leaving really much of an impact at all. Not on the gaming sphere, not in gaming journalism, not on gamers, not on like the community. Like these are games being put forward to push an agenda. It has absolutely nothing to do with their actual quality or merit. It has nothing to do with like demographics or like what critics are looking for or like, what general audiences think. Like, no. The reality is that these games are in no way impressive in any way, shape, or form. And at this point in time, we're in this period where people are in like very deep denial about that. I think it's incredible how something like uh, Red Dead Redemption 2, right, can come out, like sell 45 million units. Like people have a ton of problems with it, with like it's not with its linearity, with its like woke dialogue, with its storytelling decisions. It's a clear downgrade from the original in every way, shape, and form. Not that the original was great by any stretch of the imagination, but like RDR2 was like objectively worse, right? That's commonly understood. But RDR2 is still put forward as a masterpiece, one of the best games of the gen and this major milestone in gaming, when in reality, it's like not a particularly noteworthy open world game. Like it was shocking when I actually got around to playing it, just how much Zelda mogged it, despite coming out like a couple of years earlier, right? Breath of the Wild completely mogged it and got a sequel. So it's like, why exactly would I be excited for the future of Rockstar if Nintendo is stomping these companies, stomping Rockstar, stomping Bethesda, stomping all of these companies at their own game? Like, why would I ever even bother with them? Right? If it wasn't for game journalists doing everything they possibly could to convince me that these games were great, like I wouldn't have bothered with them at all. And I imagine that is the position that the vast majority of gamers are in, right? People say these games are good because game journalists say they are. But as people become more and more wary of game journalists, as they get more and more experience, there is more and more pushback to what these people do, what they try to pull, and the games they try to push. This narrative is simply not going to stand the test of time.